What's up, guys? This is Brent with Western Equipment. Now let's jump right on in and get to talking about this 2024 John Deere 333 P tier. Now, before 2024, what we had was the G series on these machines. Now they have moved to what's called the P tier. So what you are going to see is an upgrade on some of the models that were previously had. And then you also will see some new models within this series. But today we're talking about the 333. Now this did have a G series model that is going to be very comparable to what we're going to see here today. But there are some upgrades to this P tier machine that are definitely worth talking about. One is going to be back at the engine, so let's start back there. Now aesthetically, most things are the same back here. You're going to have a little bit of a redesign here with the rear screen that's going to be right there in front of your fan and other cooling components. You're still going to have the hood here that opens at the top by raising up here. This is also going to be lockable, so we can put a padlock on this to lock this up if we're having this out sitting on a job site. That is going to be held up by a shock absorber, so that way that can be up and out of your way. And then just with the rear hood open, we're going to be able to get to those vital things such as our diesel fill. We're also going to be able to check our engine oil with the dipstick here. We're also going to be able to fill the engine oil here at the engine oil fill. We're going to have our hydraulic fill, and we're also going to have our coolant reservoir right here on top and our air filter that is going to be easy to get to. And then some of our cooling components are going to be right here on top, but then you're also going to be able to have easy access to the side of your machine. Once you raise this boom up, get it out of the way, then we can easily start to take these side panels off. Now, once we have the boom raised up, we have those side panels removed, you can see just how easy it is and how open this machine is for you to be able to get in there and service different parts of the machine that you may need to. Also, on the P tier machines, there has been an upgrade to the cooling package on this engine. So there has been an upgrade to the amount of cooling units that you have. As you can see, we have one over here on the side, and then also we're going to have more over here on the left hand side. Now these are actually going to be able to swing open, or you can get those cleaned out good, and then you're going to have more access to filters and just more of your engine bay compartment once we get that open. Now also, once we have those off, we're also going to be able to get into such places as right here, which is going to be our battery compartment. We can simply raise up on this cover to be able to get to our battery. And then over here on the other side, the only other thing that we're going to have is right down here, we are going to have our depth fill. So right there, that's going to have a cap and a cover right over it that you'll be able to get to. Now you can get to this depth fill without taking off this side shield, but that does give you a little bit more room to see right there, and also give you a good visualization of what all you can get to over here on this left hand side. Now a couple more things that we need to take note of while we're back here at the rear of the machine is that whenever we're talking about the engine, you did get an upgrade here in 2024. You're now going to have what was 100 horsepower on this machine, now has a top horsepower of 108. So you did get quite a boost there at the engine on this 333. You're also, while you're back here at the back, if you are looking for a periodic maintenance chart, boom, you've got it right back here on the back, right underneath your hood. So as soon as you open that up, you have a chart right here that is going to tell you those different types of services we need to do at what times and when, and also give you some capacities as well on your fluids. Now, whenever we're talking about capacities, we talked about where we can check our engine oil at. If we are looking for the hydraulic fill, where we're going to look is over here on the left hand side of the machine. We're going to have a sight glass right over there behind, right underneath that boom arm. So once we have that raised up, very easy to see that, so make sure that you know where that is. Now, whenever we're back here and we're doing maintenance on this engine, one thing that you need to know is that whenever we have that boom up, we actually need to have the boom lockout on as well. And how that lockout works is you're going to have a pin over here on the right hand side that is going to shoot out from the side that you will rest your boom back down on once you put that out. And how you put that out is going to be the little red handle that is right behind the right hand of the seat. So right here is where that handle is going to be at. Once it's pointed out, you'll know that that lock is out, and then you can go ahead and set your boom back down on that pin to rest it safely to make sure that it stays up whenever we're back here doing service on this machine. So next, let's go ahead and talk real quick about undercarriage. Now, if you are familiar with the prior models, there are not going to be many changes here. What you are going to have is you are going to have one large drive motor on each side that is run hydraulically through the machine. Then what you're going to have is two large triple flange idlers at the front and the rear, and then you're going to have 5 rollers across the bottom middle here to make sure that you have plenty surface area of the track hitting the ground, making sure that we're getting that grip, getting that traction that we need on this machine. Now, as you can see, this undercarriage is pretty dirty. We've had a lot of rain here. These machines have been ran up and down, so they are not the cleanest. But one thing that you can notice is you can see how that material has started to run off of the front of that housing, and that is exactly by design. So as you can see there, there's a little bit of hump there in the undercarriage, and that is to allow debris and material to fall off of either side so that we don't have that buildup on this machine and we're not causing issues with stuff getting caught in the tracks. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that on these machines, you do have 2 different undercarriage options. So you can have the standard like we have here, or you can get the anti-vibration track system, which is an option from the factory. If you don't know much about that anti-vibration system, I've done a video on that already. I'll make sure to drop a link to that down in the description below. Now, let's talk about the working force of this machine. Talking here about our boom, we'll go ahead and go over it and the quick attach, our hydraulic capacities, and our lifting capacities. Now, first thing is that whenever we are in one of these machines, what your rated tipping load is going to be 11,000 pounds at the pin. So the pin is going to be this bottom part right here, where the bottom of our boom connects to the yellow part here, which is our quick attach. So at this point, if we were to raise 11,000 pounds, that means that this machine is going to start to tip. So what you need to consider is that whenever we are looking at our actual lifting capacity for doing work, if we need to raise material up and actually move it around the yard, we need to look further down the line in that line of specs to our actual operating lifting capacity, which would say operating capacity at 50% of tip load, or at another percentage of tip load. So really at 50% of tip load, you're looking right around 4,700 pounds that you could be raised up with this loader and then safely be able to move that around wherever you're doing your work. Now, another nice thing about this part of the machine is we did get a redesign down here on the bottom of the boom where it attaches to your quick attach. So you got a new pin system, a heavier built frame that goes all the way down to the quick attach, and heavier built components on that quick attach itself, making you be able to have heavier and beefier attachments there at the front without having problems of those maybe slipping off, popping off, whatever issues you may have had before. Those will hopefully be resolved with this redesign. Now, whenever we're looking at the hydraulics on this machine, we are talking about our auxiliary hydraulics here that we're going to be using for those attachments that we're adding to the front. What you're going to have is a high flow and standard flow on this machine. The standard flow is going to be 25 gallons per minute, and the high flow is going to be 44 gallons per minute. But the nice thing is that the whole hydraulic system on this machine has been changed from the G series. On the G series, we had a open-centered hydraulic system. On these machines, we have what's called a PCLS, which is a pressure compensated load sensing hydraulic system, meaning that no matter whether you are in standard or high flow, if you need more pressure or less pressure, the machine is going to sense that without you having to raise your throttle to get more pressure. Now, let me clarify, if you are still in standard flow, you are still only going to get 25 gallons per minute, but if you are not quite at that flow rate, you're not going to have to raise the throttle to be able to get more pressure to that attachment. The hydraulic system is going to sense that itself and make up for the difference. And same thing, whenever you are in high flow, you are still going to get up to 44 gallons per minute without having to run that throttle up. Now, what this does is this helps with fuel economy on the machine and helps you be more efficient as an operator, not having to constantly switch that throttle, change our pressures, do all of those things when running those attachments. Simply hook it up, get it in either high flow or standard, and go to work on this machine. Now, what you're going to see is a maximum output pressure of 3,500 PSI. So make sure that if you are running a high flow attachment, and make sure that it can handle that type of output. So what you're going to have for your auxiliary hydraulics is you are going to have your two main inlets and outlets here, and then you are of course going to have that case drain for those high flow attachments for any of that fluid that needs to come back from the attachment to the machine. Then you are going to have your 2 electrical outlets here for any of those attachments that may require electrics. They allow you to either pivot it, raise it, do whatever electronic function it needs to do. You are going to have that as well here on the front. Now, we've talked about the change in the engine, we've talked about the change in the hydraulic system. The main thing that's left is to talk about the change in the cab, which we will talk a lot more in depth once we get inside. But one of the things that I want to really stress to you is that this cab is larger than the previous G Series cab. But what you didn't get is you did not get a wider stance on this machine. You're still going to be with the larger tracks at 6'9" on the width. So if you are used to that certain width for your construction site, don't worry, you did not lose that. And we did not gain any height to this machine. So you are still going to have that same height that you're used to getting into those short spaces. You still have that. What's been done is once we get inside the cab, what you will notice is once you look around is you have actually lost some plastic on the sides, and they've also deepened the seat just a little bit down into the cab a little further to give you more headspace and more room side to side. And the other thing is that whenever we go to raise this cab up to do service, this is now going to be all one piece, whereas before the foot pan would stay down in the machine. Now this cab stays all in one piece, always pressurized and always completely sealed for better efficiency. All right, so now let's go ahead and get inside the cab, get in there, start showing you this newly redesigned thing. It is amazing, guys. Now, one thing that you'll notice is whenever we're getting into the machine, nothing much has changed. You're still gonna have a step usually on whatever attachment you have, plus you're gonna have grip tape there on your quick attach, the step that's actually gonna be on your boom arm, and then going up into the machine. All right, so once we get the machine opened up and take a look inside, first thing that you're gonna notice is that newly redesigned seat. This, in most models, depending on what stage or setup you get, is going to be a heated and ventilated seat. So make sure if that's something that you're interested in, that you mention that at the time that you order your machine, or that you go and look at one, to make sure that you get that newly redesigned heated and ventilated seat. Now, what you're going to see on this seat is plenty of adjustments right down there at the bottom and the side, and then also a lever over there for a back tilt. Another big change is that here at the rear, what you're going to have is a handle to actually open this back glass, move it out of the way, making this an easier process if you're ever in the situation where you are stuck and cannot get out of the front of the machine. Now, once we have the door closed, here is what our view is going to look like. We are going to have a rear view mirror up top. We have an opening here in the roof so that we can see that loader. In here on our door, we are going to have that windshield wiper. This is going to be controlled by a button up on our sealed switch module, and I have a video going all over that on a 335, so if you need to know more about that, make sure and go check that out. We're also going to have our 2 emergency handles over here on the left-hand side of the door. These can be flipped up, and this door can be pushed out. Once again, this is a safety feature for if you are stuck in the machine and need to exit for emergency. So only use these for emergency only. If you want to know more about that, I've done a video on those, on taking this door off, putting those back on, replacing them. So once again, I'll leave that down in the description below. But now let's go ahead and get this machine turned on. What we're going to do first is lower our lap bar. Once we get that pulled down over us, now what we can do is we can look up to our right hand corner, and we are going to have this beautiful screen right up here. This is going to be an 8-inch touchscreen display. On some machines, you may have a security code that you need to enter first before you can do anything else. This machine is one that is straight from the factory, so it has not been set up yet. So what we're going to do is reach up here, hit our start button, hold it down to turn the machine on. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a little closer look at the rest of the features inside the cab here. Like I said, it's hard to tell in the video, but I'm telling you, you have more room of headspace here from top to the top of the operator. You're also going to have a little more width here side to side, but like I said, you did not gain that on the outside of the machine. Those were all things that were made up for in space by these engineers on the inside of this cab. Now, if we look over to our right, one thing that you're going to notice is a change in the radio from the 333G. This is the radio that you are going to have now. Nice thing about this edition is that you are now going to be able to do Bluetooth calling from the machine. So if you need to get a hold of your operators, need to do that through the machine, you can do that through this radio and also through your display. Right up here we can see we have this phone button here where we can hook up that phone to the machine. Now over here to our left, in this machine, because of the package that we're in, we have the 2.5-inch rear camera display. So you do have a rear camera on this machine. If you go up a stage to that stage 5, to that fully loaded out machine, what you're going to have is another 8-inch display in that corner that is going to be bigger, brighter, and easier to see. And then you also could have the option of adding what's called surround view to this machine, which is going to give you a 270-degree view angle around the machine where you can see both sides and the rear all on that one screen. So keep that in mind also if you're ordering these machines. Just know that that is an option. So to go along with our screen, we already talked about our rear view mirror over here. Once we move to the right, we have our touchscreen display. This is going to be the display that gives you all the information about your machine. So right now we can see RPMs, we can see fuel gauges, the depth gauge, we can see our heat gauges there for our hydraulic fluid and also for our engine coolant. Up here at the top, we're going to have a clock and hour meter, a gauge for our hydraulic fluid, and a gauge for our coolant. It's also going to tell us right now that the machine is in park and the hydraulics are disengaged, and then we are going to have our different icons over here. This touchscreen display is going to have all of the settings that you need to go through to be able to manage your machine. Now, I have done a full video over this display showing you exactly what it does, every single feature. So if you need to see more about that, I'll make sure to drop that down in the description as well, along with a video over our sealed switch panel. So here is going to be our 25 button panel. This is going to have our start and stop buttons for the engine. This is where we're going to be able to change our controls, the sensitivity of our controls, all of the different features and functions that go along with this machine, as far as turning on our AC, our ventilated seat, our heated seat, or our windshield washer or lights. All of that is going to be done up there on the switch panel, which of course, again, I've done a video over this as well, so that will be down in the description as well. Now moving down, what we're going to have is we're going to have AC vents here on either side, both right and left. Then we're also going to have some defrost vents that make sure to keep your front glass defrosted during those winter months. And then also you are going to have some lower vents right down here and over here. And then down at the floor, we can see just how much foot space we have. I can stretch pretty much all the way out. And in this machine, we are going to have a throttle pedal right down here to the right. Once we move up just a little bit, we're going to notice that we have a cup holder on the right hand side, and then also some storage over here underneath our joystick. And we are going to have the same thing over here on the left hand side. Then once we move up, we are going to have newly redesigned joysticks. They of course are going to have the labeling there to the side and back behind to be able to show you exactly what you are going to do with each one of these joysticks. But these have changed significantly from the year prior. So I have once again have done a complete video breakdown of these joysticks for you, so I'll leave that down in the description below. But here is what your left one is going to look like. Right here we're going to have our horn, a third auxiliary. We're also going to have our creep mode buttons here on the left hand side, and then a couple of auxiliary buttons here in the middle. Then once we move over to our right, here is where our main hydraulic for the outside is going to be. So if I push on it, you can hear the machine there turn up and dial up because I'm trying to send hydraulic fluid out or bring it back in. Then we are going to have a couple of electric auxiliary buttons right here on the side and the bottom, and then one in the middle. And then of course we are going to have our labeling on these as well. You're also going to have a trigger on the back side of each one of these joysticks, and these are both going to have a function of their own depending on how your machine is set up. So in most machines, they are going to be a 2-speed machine, so you are going to have a fast speed and a slow speed. So on these machines with the 2-speed control, how you are going to switch back and forth between slow and fast is going to be with your left hand trigger. So once we pull that trigger, we can look up at our screen and see that there is a rabbit. If we pull that again, we look back up at our screen and the rabbit is gone. So this is how we are going to switch between that 2-speed transmission. Now over here on our right hand trigger, this is going to depend on how our machine is set up, but most of the time this is going to be to switch between ride control and self-leveling on the boom. So those are features that are going to be up in our keypad. Not all machines are going to be equipped with this feature, so this is something that if you need these features, you need to be asking your sales representative about whenever you go to get this machine. Now, other things to point out is there is 20% more viewing area in this cab than in the prior year models, and what that means is there is more glass in this machine. So if we look down here along our sides, we have more glass, bigger windows here on the side and here, and then also a larger rear window, which, like I talked about before, is now easily removable with the handle. We already talked about our switchback behind us here for our boom lockout, but there is another look at it. And overall, guys, just a lot more spacious cab, a lot more comfortable to ride in and sit in and be in all day. This is definitely what I would want to be. One thing that I would say is making this cab one piece to where it is completely sealed, where that floor pan does not stay with the machine when we raise the cab up, definitely reduces the noise in here, reduces the vibration. It makes for a lot quieter ride and a lot more comfortable ride in this machine. Now, as far as operating goes, for most people, we're going to use an ISO pattern, which means that our right joystick here would be for our boom. So if I'm using my right joystick, we see that we can have our boom going up or our boom going down. And then, of course, our right to left is going to be to either raise the bucket up or lower that bucket down to dump. And then to drive the machine, we are going to have over here on our left hand, this is going to be our driving function. So forward for forward, back for back with that rear. Then we'll have our turns to the left, turns to the right. Very simple operation on this machine. Now, a lot of times the question is at the end, all right, so what are we talking about price-wise and warranty? Well, those are two subjects that you are going to have to get in touch with your local John Deere dealership about, because depending on where you're at, what you're doing with this machine, whether it's going to be a state contract machine, whether you have a large construction company and are going to be ordering multiple units, or if you just qualify for certain discounts and incentives, can drastically change the price of these machines. So make sure that if you are wanting to price out one of these, you go to your local John Deere dealership, make sure that you are getting all of those incentives that you may qualify for, and then get your price for the machine. And then whenever we're talking about warranty, there are multiple different options on the warranty where you can add extra warranty to these machines. So make sure and be asking about that as well. But guys, overall, that is the 333P. That is all the features that you would need to know about to go out if you are looking at these machines versus another. You have seen it all. So I hope this video helped you out. I hope that you guys liked this video. If you did, I just ask that you would hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, guys, if you are looking for more videos like this or just more videos over John Deere equipment in general, make sure to go check out the rest of our channel. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, make sure to check out this cool video and this one. Buy your parts right up here and subscribe right here.